West Ham United do the double over Manchester United for the first time in about 7,000 years with a 2-0 victory at Old Trafford. What an achievement that would be in any other season. But I know I'm not the only one. I'm pleased we've done it, but I'm finding it hard to do anything other than go, oh, well, because of the absolute state of the season, the fact that Manchester United's players could not have cared less about the game with their Europa League final against Tottenham coming up on the horizon. I'm Will Pugh. This is the We Are West Ham podcast. I'm joined not by James Jones, who is studying himself in Morocco. Any of you follow him on Instagram will have seen the constant updates on his stories of what looks like a very nice holiday indeed. If you don't follow him, it's at by James Jones on Insta. If you fancy checking out, it's a bit too many stories include his feet for my liking, but yeah, he looks like he's having a very nice time indeed. As a result, I've been left to fight the good fight. Fortunately, though, not alone. I've filed his BBC Sport column for him today and doing the podcast. However, I am joined by a pair of very capable hands in Alex Smith, a hugely valuable member of the We Are West Ham podcast team, but most usually found sorting out all of our socials, doing all the editing, all the glamorous but vitally important stuff. Sorry, unglamorous, I'm pretty sure you'd say, Alex. You know, but he joins me tonight to have a chat about all things West Ham. Alex, great to see you, mate. Lovely to have a chat again, actually on the podcast rather than just in the corridors of power at work. 2-0, the double over Manchester United, a very rare win at Old Trafford, but it's a bit of a shame because it's kind of, I don't know, it feels like a bit like winning a pre-season friendly almost.
Yeah, it's a strange one because we're not beating United in the league since 2006, wasn't it? With Tevez and Kerbishley in charge.
Like away, yeah.
Away at Old Trafford. Yeah, so the record at Old Trafford's been horrific, and that includes sort of, enough cup defeats as well.
Yeah.
Remember there's one, was a loss in the FA Cup, didn't we, a couple of times as well?
Yeah,
so
the biannual draw at Old
the,
Trafford that we got.
Exactly.
When Anfield was busy.
So in theory, we should be buzzing by the fact we've beaten United, but it's a strange sort of like, oh yeah, it's all it is young feeling is relief, isn't it? That we've managed to get another win before the end of the season, because it was for a while it was like, oh god, we just this run of like, we're going to go into the summer feeling really negative. We probably still will, because we'll probably used to lose to Forest and Ipswich, but at least we've got like one win and we're back above United and Spurs in the battle to not finish 17th. And I mean, that's sort of depressing things we're playing for at the moment. So
exactly that. Yeah, I mean, it's so bleak, isn't it? Like you say, with 15 points, we've got to 40 points. I mean, I don't know if you follow the account on Twitter, West Ham Clips, I think it is, who does the alternative commentaries. And obviously, for the past few seasons, one of his sort of gags is that his sign-off is, like 10 points to go if we're on 30 points, i.e. getting to the magic 40. Those seasons when we were in Europe, he was saying, like, he was doing like joke West Ham have stayed up videos, like whatever it was, like 15, 20 games into the season or whatever, like basically at the halfway mark. Perhaps a little bit further than that, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, to take 36 games to get to 40 points and obviously, like I say, be above Manchester United and Tottenham are on 39 and 38 respectively. I mean, it's almost unbelievable, like the position of those two clubs. But at least they're in a Europa League final, and kind of whichever one of them wins it, you sort of forget about it. For the one that loses it, what a total catastrophe of a season. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Did you obviously earlier in the season there was the controversy with the delict on Danny Ings penalty at the end, and I don't know about you, but I found as well at work today, obviously because we work in London, there's plenty of Man United fans in and around the office. And I didn't really, I mean, I did anyway, but I didn't really enjoy sort of giving him a bit of stick about it, because they were just like, whatever, mate. Like, why would I care?
yeah, it's so weird. Like, even when See, when Arsenal got knocked out to PSG after last week, and it was like you normally give loads of sticks to Arsenal fans, but they're just like, yeah, I suppose you got, yeah. Like, what can you even say? Because they've still had, even if it's funny that they've fallen short again, obviously, and we can all laugh at that. But at the same time, at least they've had enough to cheer in their sort of win over Real Madrid. That's obviously a memory that we know about, getting far in Europe and enjoying those nights. And, Arsenal have had that. United are having
The
that.
best night of
Spurs
Declan
are having
Rice's
that.
career, wasn't it?
Exactly. Have you seen he's pinned on
so he said.
Instagram? He's pinned on Instagram. It's still a picture of him in bed with a Conference League trophy, and that is going to stay pinned for the rest of his career because he's going to win nothing there, is he? So, no.
Yeah.
But at the end of the
exactly.
day, those supporters, no wonder they don't care, because we know what it's like to have the European nights, and those are special. And
Yeah.
I mean, why would you be bothered? Like, we were a bit like it last season as well. Come to the end when we were still with Leverkusen, it was like, just rest everyone for the league, because that's the priority. Like,
mate, I couldn't.
and you can only, and obviously from our point of view, we can only beat what's in front of us, so we'll take it. But at the same time, I can completely understand their sort of apathy and sort of the fact they can really be bothered. Like, and so that the same thing with Tottenham, wasn't it? The week before, like, it was sandwiched between their two semi-final legs.
Yeah.
Like, they were going to make changes. They were never really going to go like sort of all out for the win. There was one, it was like that 1-1 15 minutes ago. Or we were both scared to win it, both scared to lose it, sort of vibe. And just sort of, oh well, draw, just sort of paper, sort of not paper over the cracks.
Paper over the cracks, is it? Just sort of like continues
just sort of
to leave the cracks really exposed.
Yeah, continues to leave the, but at least they don't get any worse.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
We'll just leave
that's
them.
Kind of what it,
yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like, wasn't it, at the weekend, where it's just like, okay, yeah, like obviously given the choice, rather win but lose. But yeah, if you'd have ever, Man United are up there as far as like, when I've got my club hat on, Man United are up there with like teams I hate. Do you know what I mean? Like Tottenham obviously are at the top of that tree. But Man United are sort of, they're like pretty much, I would think I would say second. Obviously the Millwall rivalry, not really a thing in my lifetime. I think we played them 4 times, maybe 5. So yeah, Man United are easy top 3. So any other season, I'd be absolutely buzzing to have beaten Manchester United. Particularly, it's one of those, isn't it? In a weird way, the fact we've gone above them, but so lowly in the league, the fact it doesn't matter to them at all, also actually makes it worse. Like, that, like, obviously the famous seasons in the early 90s when Ludo stopped them winning the league. Part of the fun of beating Arsenal this season and last away from home was that it stopped them winning the league, wasn't it? But when the other team's fans couldn't care less, it's hard to sort of like revel in the glory of it, isn't it?
Yeah, because there is. It feels like there was like no glory. Even they were like, even every United fan was like, yeah, you were gonna win, and we were like, no, well, we are terrible. I hope you realise how bad we are.
Yeah,
they fail to understand, because obviously they're terrible themselves, that we're actually worse than them, and we've not even had any joy, sort of, in the cups to sort of get a bite in the season. It's just been pure rubbish, pure depression throughout the whole course of the season. So we should be happy the fact we've just got 3 points on the board, because that was our first win since that Leicester game we won midweek, when we sort of turned up for 20 minutes, got 2 goals, and then stopped playing for the rest of it, because we.
It'd be really funny, mate, is that after all the moaning I've been doing all season long, and even right at the beginning of the season saying, oh, we're just going to finish 12th, it's going to be a load of rubbish. 12th is officially beyond us now. Obviously, the maximum amount of points we can get is 46 from this stage. Wolves are 1 place above us on 41 points. We're on 40. And then Everton, 1 place above them. David Moyes' Everton, of course, are on 42 points. So all we've got, if we somehow finish 13th, I'll be borderline annoyed. I mean, it will be good, seriously, because I think now per place it's about 3.25 to 3.5 million pounds per place in prize money at the end of every season. So lots of the stories that come out of the club recently, which me and James covered on the pod, not too long ago, about West Ham having to sell in order to buy this summer. Lots of those are PSR related, and a big part of it, not the whole part of it, or as much as the club would perhaps have you think, is related to the fact that they budgeted for an 8th place finish. So if you finished 13th as opposed to 17th, there's obviously 4 places there at £3.5 million each. You're talking 14 million quid there. And we're led to believe that there was a £25 million hole in the finances as a result of the club budgeting for us to finish 8th. So if we'd have finished 17th, it would have left a £25 million hole. So the story went. So to eat away at 14 million quid of that might mean we can keep hold of Luis Guilherme or something like that.
Well, if that's not too bad. I like to keep him. I normally use the line when anything when it comes to money of West Ham goes, "Oh, that'll pay for Danny Ings' wages," but we can't say that anymore.
I know.
He's
Thank
actually
God.
going to go.
Look, well, that's a good little setup, to be honest, Alex. Look, coming up on this podcast, me and Alex will have a look into the Man United game in a little bit more detail. Next, we'll chat about the announcement, of course, as Alex is right to bring up there, that Aaron Cresswell, Lucas Fabianski, Vladimir Coufal and Danny Ings will leave the club when their contracts expire at the end of the season. We'll have a little bit of a chat, as always, about the general context of West Ham, get some of Alex's thoughts on the summer and things coming up. And I suppose, Alex, that we better do the listeners the service, the very basic service of acknowledging we've got a game at home to Nottingham Forest next Sunday in the Premier League before that curtain closer, before the curtain falls. One of the worst campaigns ever. With the away game at already relegated Ipswich on Sunday, the 25th of May, 4 p.m. kickoff. We'll do a little bit of the looking ahead at the end of the podcast too. So stay with us. Also, of course, as ever, don't forget to follow We Are West Ham on all of your social media platforms, apart from Facebook. Which was quite a lot of ag, so we stopped posting on it. But next season, maybe we'll reconsider it. But for now, we're at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. We're We Are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Search We Are West Ham Podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can get some clips as well as the audio if you like looking at mine and James's face as we talk about West Ham. And of course, do not forget, probably the most important one, to be fair, if you like getting podcasts without adverts and a day before all the other people who listen to a podcast, why not subscribe to We Are West Ham on patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast for a very small amount of money every month, around the price of a high street cup of coffee. Actually, it's probably way less than that now, given the prices of the coffees that I have to buy in London, in central London every day. So for less than a price of a London cup of coffee every month, you can get ad-free podcasts and listen to these a day before all of your non-Patreon counterparts if you fancy signing up at patreon.com/We Are West Ham podcast. Lots coming up on the show. Stay with me and Alex, starting with that win at Old Trafford next. Right, was there anything particularly that stood out for you, Alex? Tomas Soucek has still been credited, I believe, with the opening goal on 26 minutes, even though it did look like it took a deflection off Ugarte, I think, on the way in. And then Jarrod Bowen, the man who surely got the Hammer of the Year trophy tied up for this season, wrapped up the 3 points on 57 minutes. Manchester United had the lion's share on literally all of the stats. Other than red cards, West Ham had more offsides than Manchester United, but I don't think that's a good thing. West Ham committed more fouls. United's pass accuracy was better. They made more passes. They had 53% possession to our 47. They had 5 shots on target to our 4 and 20 shots to our 9. However, they looked pretty pants, didn't they, Alex? But was there anything? Well, we'll start wherever you want, mate. Goals, stats, general look and feel, away fans, whatever. What do you fancy?
I think we should start with that first goal from Soucek. And I know it's going to sound like a broken record. I know because I know you do quite a lot of the heavy lifting on the Soucek love, but he is so important. And if we dare sell him in the summer for any price, it's utterly ridiculous because he's far too important. And even if he doesn't start every game as a squad player, as a leader, as just somebody who purely understands what West Ham is like, you just have to keep him. And he showed it again with another important goal. And it's just like we cannot sell him. It'd be utterly ridiculous to sell him. And I know you say that all the time, but at the end of the day, he's just too important. He's just too effective.
Yeah, it's nice to have an echo, to be honest, mate. I'm glad you're here to back me up. And I'd like to think that as the season's worn on, that most West Ham fans think that. Do you know what I mean? I think at the beginning of the season,
you think so.
Fair, but surely now you can't have anyone who wants them to go.
There's enough fools in our fan base to still go, yeah, but he's not good on the ball, is he? So, there's enough of this. We've got plenty of those. So, but I think Potter himself is surely intelligent enough to go, even if he's not exactly my type of footballer, there is no way we can cope with him without take his goals away from sort of the team, and it's only Bowen is the only one who ever scores. If it's not for him, we literally who's going to score beyond Soucek and Bowen right now in the squad? I mean, Kudus, Fulkrug. I think he's good, but he hasn't really done anything consistently with his injuries. So it's like the goals are either going to come from Soucek or Bowen. So to get rid of Soucek would be just complete stupidity, wouldn't it? It's complete stupidity.
Yeah, I quite agree, mate. And right, what do you think it is? Because you're right to point out that I do bang on about Soucek on this podcast a lot. Now, people are quick to say with Soucek that he's not good on the ball. What do you think his strongest traits are? Like, what is it about him? Because you don't score that many goals by fluke. You just don't. So what do you think? What is it about him that makes him such an effective footballer?
I mean, like his reading of the game is like, that comes from the way he times his runs into the box to be in these positions, and also defensively as well. Where he protects the back four quite well. Like not just sort of when it's sort of like we're deep, he just sort of sits there, heads it clear, gets a little foot in, sort of unnoticed things. Both of those are just like they're just massive, especially defensively. Like it's massive, but you probably don't notice it how important it is, or even just like tracking a runner into the box so he can't receive the ball and get a shot away or something like that. Like his intelligence. I mean, it's sort of like it wouldn't be great, but you probably like, you want to spend a game just watching his movement to fully understand everything that he does for the team, because you probably don't see it half the time. And he's completely like almost like unique in the Premier League. There's not many other players like him, but he's so effective, and you simply just can't go. You can't build a squad without him. It'd be ridiculous to sell him, even if Moyes came in from Everton and came in with a big bid. But it's just, what's the point in selling him? You can't replace him.
Exactly. For what, it's one of those, isn't it, where it's easy. People from the outside will go, he's got X amount left on his contract. He's this age, whatever. Therefore, he's probably only worth 10 million quid. He is worth 50 million quid to West Ham, isn't he? I'm serious. I know that sounds crazy, but you've got to take his current worth to your own club, haven't you? That's what people are talking about. Declan Rice, remember Gareth Bale when he left Tottenham? Like, it's all very well just doing a crass calculation based on contract length, wages and amount of time he's got left. But that just doesn't work when, like you say, if you took that and just went to most clubs in the Premier League, we want to buy your second highest scorer for the season. I'm saying I'm just assuming that's true. Like it's got to be, surely.
It's got
if you went to most clubs in the Premier League, said I want to buy your second highest scorer, you're not paying 15 million quid, are you?
No, exactly. No, not the amount of work he gets through on the other end of the pitch as well, away from the goals. Like he's one of people can, they might not like it, but at the end of the day, he's one of the most important players we have.
Yeah,
and like
go on.
And even his passing, like it was obviously not that great on the ball. Don't get me wrong, and you don't really want him like sort of the way we're passing up from the back now. you obviously don't want him sort of who's facing his own goal, playing pass with the centre backs. Obviously not. But his long passing's actually all right. Like complete switches. When he used to switch out to Kufau, we see a little bit more under Moyes. But like his long passing isn't that bad. It's just sort of like that sort of like heavy first touch. He's got sort of like like that's not great. Don't get me wrong, but like
no,
I like what Potter's done, which is sort of like bring like Ward-Prowse. Sort of played Guido Rodriguez really randomly on Sunday. Or Potts like Paqueta and Ward-Prowse in the two.
Okay.
He was okay. He was okay. Yeah, he was fine. Like, I think it's because in a midfield sort of three, in front of a back three, he's incredibly protected in terms of like.
He doesn't have to do anything.
He doesn't have to do a lot of running, and that's his problem. But if it's just like small areas, tidy passing, like he's all right. He's okay. But has to make Guido Rodriguez work. I think you have to have a lot of players sort of around him and not have him big cover in big areas. Same with Soucek. That's why Lopetegui, basically, one of the many flaws of him was the fact that we relied on Alvarez sprinting to cover Wan-Bissaka because Wan-Bissaka was playing up front for some reason. So anyway, Soucek, he is not as bad on the ball as people think he is when in the right areas to do it. When in the right areas to do it. Like we had that season with Moyes, didn't we? When we tried to push Rice forward and Soucek became sort of the deeper of the two, and it just completely flopped.
I could not agree more. Yeah, and that was all part of that.
Play to Soucek's strengths. Play to Soucek's strengths.
No, but that was actually right. That was an agreement that was made between Declan Rice and his representatives and the club, that to stay on for that extra year, as well as all the being guaranteed to leave. He's like, I don't want to be just the holding midfield player. That was not the right thing for the team, was it? Because Soucek Soucek is better going forward than Declan Rice is. Still, I'll still maintain that. And it's because that in that season when they swapped, people just assume because he's tall and not the most attractive and he runs in a bit of an ungainly fashion, they just assume that he must be a defensive type of player. Do you know what I mean? So, but then actually, if you really look at what he does and the numbers and his movement and his strengths, exactly what you said, that it's the timing going forward, it's the positional play. That's the thing that I just think unless you're really football savvy, from the more technical side of the game or whatever, you almost, unless you're looking out for it, you wouldn't really know, would you? Unless you watch a game back, especially if you're there live, it's difficult to gauge when someone's had a game full of good movement, isn't it? And like strikers, often they'll say that a good striker, and Haaland, that's why he's so good at it, because he just plays a numbers game. He's constantly making intelligent, powerful runs. And for every 8 runs he makes, the ball only finds him twice. All right, he's good at putting it in. But all 8 runs will all be very intelligent. And I think that's just impossible. And I think Soucek, people used to say that about Frank Lampard, didn't they? Arriving in the box at the right time was like his major talent. And I think Soucek just gets so nowhere near the amount of credit he should. And again, I think because he's good at the vital stuff, but that's not glamorous or that doesn't get noticed. His show reel, like give me 1,000 Tomas Souceks over Mohamed Kudus's any day of the week, seriously. But the thing is, when you're a player like Soucek, you can't have a show reel, can you? You can't have a highlight reel on YouTube because all his goals, barring the one at Everton away, and he's got a couple of decent ones, but most of his goals are from within like 6 or 7 yards, aren't they? Or they're like less headers than people think. People assume all of his goals are headers, most of them with his feet. And but they're all, none of them are great goals, but you couldn't have a positional highlights reel on YouTube, could you? It's like, look how well he just sort of knew where the ball was going to land. People just think it's a fluke and he was standing in the right place to stab it in. I totally agree. What else do you fancy then? Bowen's other goal. The fans are obviously phenomenal.
Fans are always good, aren't they, away? But quickly on that Soucek goal as well, one thing we need to mention, because I didn't actually realise this until quite recently, West Ham just posted something. 30 passes leading up to that goal.
Really?
Soucek's got 30 passes. So we kept the ball for I think it's we keep it for about a minute, just over a minute. And the first 10, we just sort of get the ball back and sort of knock it about, like we've got all day to score. The next 10, we sort of you can see, I think there's a good moment where sort of I think it's Ward-Prowse and Todibo, so both sort of point to the same area. So the pass, it's the team are I think they're looking a bit more cohesive. And I think this has been the case, even though we've been in poor form, not really getting the results. I think performances have been genuinely getting a little bit better. And then there was some good part. That was a good passing move. Sort of the players all sort of on the same page, knowing where that ball needs to go. And then we eventually sort of managed to poke it through a couple of passes, and we're down on the left, and then Wan-Bissaka and Kudus combine, and then the ball goes across to Soucek. But being able to keep the ball for 30 passes, I mean, it's something that we haven't been able to do for ages, and also that's obviously quite key to what Potter wants to do. We don't need to score. Every goal doesn't need to have 50 passes and then be a tap in on the line. Obviously not. But being able to keep the ball effectively is important for a manager who likes possession, and we're showing signs that we are getting better at doing that. So I think that's not the first time we've sort of. I think the goal against Tottenham was and Bowen's goal was another good move, good team move.
Right.
And I think we are getting slowly, very slowly, we are slowly getting better at the sort of pass and move football that we need to be good under Potter. So with some new players, hopefully I think we're on the way. Very at the beginning, but we are on the way.
We're on the way. God knows to what, mate. But we're certainly on the way to something. Aaron Wan, obviously Jarrod Bowen. Honestly, what a man! What a man! He's unbelievable. And what a relief it was that Mo Salah stayed at Liverpool, because most sort of sensible money would suggest that that's their first port of call would be testing West Ham's resolve, or maybe paying the release clause that's in that, including that 7-year contract he's got. I think it's only 85 odd million quid, that the release clause, around that level, and that he's worth so much more than that. More goals from open players in it than Bukayo Saka, maybe against the big 6 teams, or doesn't take pens. He's unbelievably effective, and I think, where would we be without him this season? Do you know what I mean?
We'd be down there with Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton.
Well, yeah, I think. Well, we would have gone down, wouldn't we?
Probably, yeah. He's so important to us, and it's the fact that again, I was surprised Falkirk didn't start, but the fact he can come in and also do a job up front. He's obviously far better on coming off on the right and doing that cut in with his left foot. But he's without. Can you imagine where would the goals come from besides Soucek? He's must be so. I don't know how many assists he's got as well, but it's got to be a fair few. I don't know what the percentage.
It can't be that many because no one else has scored.
No, exactly. The percentage of goals he must have played a part in, in the Premier League. It must be out there at least 50, probably more than 50%. He's played a part in the goals and assists.
Oh, what, as in his
goal contributions
to your team. Yeah,
that's it's got to be 50-60%. That will be somewhere. We need, But he's again. It's another season he's hit over 10 Premier League goals as well. Yeah. Even though we've been rubbish. He's got 11 for this season. That's not bad considering how terrible we've been. You're playing a half decent team. You're looking at least 5 more in mid-table team. If we're competing for Europe, he's obviously good enough to do that. The better players around him, he could be getting close to 20, couldn't he? Easily.
Yeah. No, it's one of them with Bowen as well. I think it's almost like people don't bother talking about how amazing he's been or how amazing he is because the season's so rubbish, and everyone's just oh yeah, as in it goes without saying. But I think it's worth just reinforcing, what a man, how vital he is to the team. And I just think it really annoys me with, again, he's another player. Give me 1,000 Jarrod Bowens any day of the week over a Said Benrahma, over Mohamed Kudus, over a Lucas Paqueta. Do you know what I mean? Some of it, I really, really hope he comes back and he's the same. But there's no one who comes even close to like what Jarrod Bowen's doing for West Ham, and he's doing it in such a quiet, unassuming, professional manner. You know, we all saw what Dimitri Payet did for the club and how amazing he was. But this is a man who's properly committed to the cause, who's happy, who's settled. And there's no drama, is there? Like with Payet, obviously all the news stories about him recently have, sort of raised eyebrows even higher than they were before. But it was all the drama, and he sort of, he left with seemingly scant regard for the club. And Arnautovic, even amazing player, but you could just, didn't sort of stick around at West Ham, was a bit hot and cold. Bowen, you can just tell he turns up, does his work week in, week out, and you do feel like he's in it for the long haul, and that he's just going to keep on doing that. Like what could possibly derail him? Do you know what I mean? I just find him really professional, and I think if every player in our team conducted himself as Jarrod Bowen does, and Soucek and Cresswell, I know he's coming to the end of his ability and the end of his time at West Ham, but Soufal, just no frills, no drama, no fuss. Just turn up, do your work during the week in a professional fashion, and turn up and do the business for West Ham United at a weekend. You can't put a price on that, even though West Ham have. And I think if that release clause in his contract, if he keeps doing what he's doing, will look an absolute bargain to Liverpool if and when Mohamed Salah leaves, or for that matter, to anyone else. Man United could do with him. There's plenty of teams who could. Anything else, Alex, from the game then? Wan-Bissaka probably deserves a bit of a mention. I like what Todibo is doing in the sort of recently, and I'm people were almost like rolling their eyes a bit when we triggered the automatic clause in his deal that meant we kept him. But I suppose a word, because I've been a bit disparaging about Wan-Bissaka, but a decent performance against his old club.
No, I really like Wan-Bissaka. I think
you're overdoing him like everyone else, but
no. Like, I don't think he should win Hammer of the Year. I don't think he's quite there, but I think he probably should have.
Bowen, Soucek, Wan-Bissaka. That's top three.
Yeah, that's the top three easily. And that order is probably that's probably the fair order. I think Wan-Bissaka is a good shout just because it's sort of someone people like to vote for someone new. I feel like, and it has to someone be a bit different. But Wan-Bissaka, I think Wan-Bissaka has been unbelievable. Aside from the games under Lopetegui, where he was being asked to do something he's not very good at doing, sort of coming inside was not needed. But the way he dribbles,
unbelievable, strong.
He's been unbelievable. He has. He's defensively, one-on-one. We know how good he is, but how good he's been going forward. Like the way he dribbles with the ball, people can't get it off him. Genuinely can't get it off him. And even doing a shift at left wing back on Sunday.
I know. Yeah.
And he's class in both. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. And I think for 15 million on like a 6-year, 7-year deal, whatever it was, that is an absolute bargain. Meanwhile, Man United still have Diogo Dalot on their books, who is utterly rubbish. And they completely sold the wrong right back.
Wan-Bissaka could walk back into United's team, couldn't he?
Easily. But I think he's just proved to be an unbelievable bit of business, considering Soufal was last summer was approaching his final year. We obviously needed to freshen up that position, and I think Wan-Bissaka it's just proved to be a great signing.
I think
easily our best signing.
I think he's done fine. I'd go as far as to say he's done well, but he hasn't changed the world. We're still 15th in the Premier League, mate, and he started most games. I know you can only do so much as a wing back or a full back or whatever, but he's no better. He's been no better. He's done nothing more for West Ham than Emerson's done. I think
he's better than Emerson. Emerson can't last on 60 minutes without being subbed off.
No, I'm saying Emerson this season, all right, not his greatest campaign, but Emerson at his peak for West Ham, he was our best player for 2 to 3 seasons other than Jarrod Bowen. Emerson, again, just didn't get the credit he deserved. But because Wan-Bissaka's come from Manchester United, people think it's all shiny and new. I think he's been good. Fine. Like I say, I'm totally with you and everyone else that Lopetegui made him look abject at the beginning because it was wild what he was asking to do. And I think he's been perfectly fine since then. He's done some good things, like no huge errors, I suppose. But I'm not sitting there going, oh, God, I'm so lucky to watch Aaron Wan-Bissaka play for West Ham, like I do with Jarrod Bowen, certainly like I did with Emerson. I just sort of, it's like, he's all right. But we're
So
15.
So what, out of 10 for him personally this season, what are you going to give him? Are you giving him like a 6?
No, I
Is that
think
what
he
you're
gets
saying?
like 7.7.
Okay, yeah, that's all right, yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
you're talking...
but I would say I was going to say he's earned his money, but he's on loads of money. So, yeah, I would say he's one of few who's probably just about justified his salary. I don't think many of the others can go, yeah, I was good for my wages this season. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. But I think you're being a tad harsh to Wan-Bissaka.
But
I think he's been
you
really
see, it's not harsh giving someone a 7.7, is it? Like,
No,
that's
that's
a
what I thought you were going to
perfectly
go
reasonable
lower than that.
score. No,
Yeah,
I
I thought
don't
you...
think he's been bad. And I still, like I say, he's in our top 3 players. But that's everyone else has been absolutely abject. I just don't. Yeah. Like what sticks in your mind as something he's done particularly well?
All the times you've dribbled through about 3 players. Well, how many assists has he got this
He's done
season? He's got
nothing
quite
with
a
it.
few. He's got
About
quite a few
4.
assists.
Right, I'm
We
checking this
scored
out
about 5 goals.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not that good, is he? Right, go on. How many? I'm googling this now. How many?
How many
What
assists has
stats
he
do you
got?
think he's got for the season?
He's got 1 goal, hasn't he? Or did he score 2? He scored 2
No.
goals.
Come on, Mister. He's so good. 7.7
Okay.
out of 10 is hot.
I bet he's got 2 goals and like 5 assists.
2 goals, 4 assists in
Oh, it's close.
36 appearances this season. Do
From
not
right back.
tell me.
From right back, and he's got no one to pass
wing
to.
back. He was playing up front for the first 10 games, like you said. He's been fine. He's been absolutely fine, but yeah, he's not ripping any trees up. Right, anything else, mate, before we move on, and we'll have a chat about Cresswell and Danny Ings and Vladimir Soufal and Lucas Fabianski leaving at the end of the season. Actually, I'd say honourable mention for Alphonse Areola. Made some really decent saves. And after a weird season, I sort of still feel the jury's a little bit out on him. He did well. Anyone else to sort of you were particularly pleased with?
We'll touch on Cresswell after the break, but quickly on Areola, let's hope it's him between the sticks and not Aaron Ramsdale next season.
Also, James Ward-Prowse, pretty decent performance, has got to score when Lindelof played him in. But look, brilliant to beat Manchester United away. Whenever you do that, and as Alex said, you got to beat what's in front of you. Doing the double over United, happy days. Just a shame that none of their fans gave 2 stuffs. Anyway, stay with us. We're going to have a bit of a chat about the departing players at the end of the season. Plus, we'll look forward to the Nottingham Forest game next. I wrote, Alex, in the BBC Sport column earlier on today that club legends Aaron Cresswell, Vladimir Soufal and Lucas Fabianski are leaving West Ham United at the end of the season, and they leave with the hugest of thanks from the bottom of my heart for their service and all they have done for West Ham United. And I wrote, in other news, Danny Ings is also leaving. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how to approach it really, whether we start with the bad first, but I fear that will take up too much of the conversation and won't leave us any time to actually say some of the good stuff that I definitely need saying about Cresswell, Soufal, and Fabianski. Danny Ings, our 3rd highest earner. It may have changed. He may have been dropped down to 4th this season, I think. But yeah, all I can say is the goodest of riddance to Danny Ings. I was actually quite excited when we signed him, but he's absolutely stunk the place out. So that's about all I'm going to say. Have you got anything to add on Danny Ings? I think the only good thing he'd done was win that penalty against Manchester United earlier in the season in the home game right at the end, when he sort of went down or made a meal of De Ligt sort of brushing his stud against his shin to get the penalty. I'm really not a fan, really disappointed. Obviously the game come off the bench against Burnley, I think, didn't he, his old club. But other than that, I was just we didn't play to his strengths at the beginning, it seemed. And that seemed to just kill it. I don't know if we ever played to his strengths. And then that seemed to kill his confidence. And then there seemed to be no strengths left to play to. Just an utter catastrophe of a signing. By all accounts, a David Sullivan signing that he thrust upon David Moyes and that David Moyes didn't want. So goes the tale. Anything else to add on that, really?
Yeah, quick. Let's do the positives of Danny Ings. Didn't he score 2 goals in his debut against Forest?
Was that the Burnley game or not?
Maybe.
No, the Burnley game he came off the bench, didn't he?
He scored 2 that against Forest. I know he did. I know he did.
And that was at London Stadium.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can do the positives then.
That's about it. In terms of that, Danny Ings is, in a way, I like. He's meant like, again, another positive is he's meant to be like a decent lad, sort of like in training. And those are the players, when you speak about him, they always say, "Oh, like, I like hanging around with Danny." But like, apart from that, it's a lot of money for someone who's just there for morale and not playing football, isn't it?
Exactly, 125 grand a week for someone who's good round the training ground.
Yeah, exactly. It's far too much money, and it was ridiculous amount of money to pay for him, basically, because I mean, I suppose we kind of needed a striker in that January we signed him, but why offer him such a long contract on such a lot of money? Offer him a short-term deal, or offer it lower wages.
Yeah.
And then give him the same length. Like that's a complete panic buy, and with sort of the fact he's still sort of seeing out the end of his deal shows that we basically couldn't get rid of him because he's on too much money.
Lingering around like a bad smell. 69 games, Alex, 5 goals and 5 assists, and 3 of those goals and 2 of those assists came in his first season. Absolutely stunk the place out ever since. And if you're saying, I'm just about to check what you, I think you might have been a little bit wide of the mark on the goals. That it certainly wasn't on his debut. 1, 2, 3, 4 Premier League games he played for West Ham before that game against Nottingham Forest, where he scored 2 goals. And then come off the bench for that game against Burnley, where he scored another one. He scored away at Fulham, didn't he? And I was at that one, right at the death. And I was at that one. That was to the late equaliser, which I enjoyed. But decent. I mean, even the hair transplant he had didn't really take, did it? It just sort of summed up his time at the club, really. You kind of feel a bit bad giving him a hard time, because I'm really sort of fairly angry about the whole situation. And I guess maybe in line with what you said, maybe there's a little bit of anger at the club there. But I also felt, and it must be difficult for him, particularly as a striker, and kind of getting the feeling that no one's bothered about you from a fan perspective. But I just almost felt like it was almost, and I know this never happens, but you're almost like, come on, mate, how can you walk in the stadium and be the 3rd highest earner every week? I know they've given you the contract and whatever, but it's borderline embarrassing now, because I just felt almost a bit of anger at him, because he was hoovering up so much of our available cash, I suppose, on the wage bill. And you just sort of, for absolutely zero return, the amount of games you come off the bench because the manager clearly just felt like I should try and use him. And it was just no, don't waste your time. Just don't, there's no point. And he just offered nothing at all, did he? On or off the ball. I just really, really, I'm quite emotive about that that move generally. And a little bit, I think, it's hard not to aim some of it at him, even though I suppose you're going to take the contract if it's on the table.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, it's not really his fault. It's like when a player comes in, like Anthony as an example at Man United, of someone who's come in with a big price tag and he can't live up to that sort of fee and that number. And Ings has sort of been the same in terms of like his wages can't live up to that number. That's not, that's not his fault. In a way, he shouldn't have been paid that much. No. So I'm more angry at the club for agreeing that deal than him. Really, I think. I'm sure I can't say he wasn't trying when he came on and stuff like that. I think he was trying. He's just never £100,000 a week, whatever it was, striker. Like, it's not.
Yeah, 125. Yeah,
125. Like, ridiculous. But that's not his fault.
And in hindsight, he never. I don't know what you feel. He never fitted. Even when we signed him, it's like, well, that's not the profile of player that we need. That's not the profile of centre forward that works in a David Moyes team. You need and I've said this exact statement so many times. David Moyes needs a 7 out of 10 striker. And by that, I mean 7 out of 10 at everything. 7 out of 10 quick, 7 out of 10 strong, 7 out of 10 in the air. Like, we'll run the channels, chase, bully people a bit. Like, Mark Arnautovic was the creme de la menthe version of that. He was pretty strong, pretty quick, pretty good in the air, pretty good at finishing. Like, an all-rounder. Like, what David Moyes teams and West Ham didn't need at the time is someone who's like 10 out of 10 at like 1 or 2 attributes, but then 3 or 4 others. Like, Danny Ings, no good in the air, really light on the ball. Right, good, sharp little quick forward in the box. But you need to play a very specific way for a player like Danny Ings to succeed. And it was nothing like the way West Ham were playing when he signed, or to be honest, since, really, was it?
No, it's a weird one where it's like, also his best season, I think, was at Southampton. When he only got like 20 goals at Southampton that year.
Yeah, he was brilliant at Southampton, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was brilliant. But he played down front too. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he played down front too.
Adams?
Yeah, with Che Adams, who's quite a bit more of a unit who could do the sort of physical side for him, and he was there.
Yeah,
with the finishes. Like, he's also lost more than a yard of pace.
He's had a few injuries. Well, I don't for that.
he's lost more than a yard of pace, especially with his injuries as well. And he was completely the wrong fit. And he was signed because Sullivan feared we were going to go down, and we needed someone maybe to chip in with like a couple of goals. And we needed that across 3 years instead of half a season. But yeah. Let's talk about the other three.
You're totally right, mate. Yeah. I'll tell you what, you start. Cresswell, Fabianski, Vladimir Soufal. Cresswell, 35 years old, 11 seasons in the Prem with West Ham, which is the longest unbroken top flight career of any individual player at the club in the Premier League era. Signed from Ipswich 2014, nearly 370 West Ham appearances, England, capped by England as well. Then you got Fabianski, 40 years of age, won Hammer of the Year in 2019 after joining from Swansea, 215 games, 7 seasons at West Ham. And then, of course, Vladimir Soufal, by far the most recent of all three of these players. 32 years old, still fairly young, signed in October 2020, 180 appearances for West Ham, Hammer of the Year runner-up in his first season. It's just funny, all this statement on the club. I'll get onto that in a minute. I will say it now, actually. All this nice statement on the club, and then the last sentence is, striker Ings, also 32, has made 69 appearances since joining from Aston Villa in January 2023. That's it. What did annoy me, right, before we move on to the positives, the thing that really annoyed me, mate, is that they did it all in one, and that they like grouped Danny Ings in with those. And what I'd have liked to have seen is an individual announcement for all of them. And because no one's interested in clapping Danny Ings, and an individual announcement for Cresswell and then Fabianski and then Soufal, even if it's over 3 days and you just do them one after the other, give people a bit of time and breathing space to praise each one of them individually. It just felt a bit weird to just smush them all together. And then even like Graham Potter's quotes, Aaron, Lucas, Vladimir and Danny have been a pleasure to work with, all brilliant professionals, clearly loved and admired by the teammates and everyone here at the club, blah, blah, blah. it's fine. And everyone at West Ham would like to sincerely thank Aaron, Lucas, Vladimir and Danny for their dedicated service to the club. They'll depart at the end of the season with our love and appreciation for their contribution during a period that brought memorable success. Danny Ings deserves none of that, whereas the other three individually deserve like really heartfelt, emotive statements each, I think. So that's just my last little piece on that. You got anything on that before we go
No,
positives?
I think that's a good point. We're sort of releasing them in a group as like releasing a bunch of 17-year-olds who never made it.
Yeah.
Like these are club legends who've won a trophy at the club and been part of our most successful team in God knows how long.
Totally.
Been fantastic servants, and I think they deserve. Yeah, I think I think it's not the reason I thought about before, but like they deserve to at least do it one each day or whatever, or even like just so
one in the morning, one at lunchtime, one in the evening is fine.
Just so people can at least like each of them get a little bit of love from the fan base, which I think they thoroughly deserve.
Yeah.
And it was I think it is actually a bit strange when you said it. Yeah, I completely agree.
And then just announce the Danny Ings news at midnight or something.
Don't go to bed.
Some good news to wake up to. Right, we'll do positives first, Alex. And we'll leave Vladimir Soucek till last because I feel fairly strongly about Soucek and his departure, and I want to say that at the end because I'm pretty sure you'll want to chat back to me about it. But why don't we start with Cresswell, longest server, other than Antonio, the only one left from the last season at Upton Park in that squad. Since the day he joined, really. And I also, another thing I wrote in my BBC Sport column today, even though I'm in my 30s now, I still get really sad saying goodbye to players who have really dedicated everything to West Ham and performed well for the club we love so much and kind of gone about it in a real professional manner, and who've just done well and committed to the cause. And I think from the moment Cresswell arrived, he was like a cut above the rest from the beginning. And I think he's done some great stuff. But just talk to me what you feel about Cresswell as well, because there are those who sort of think he tainted his reputation somewhat with the Eintracht Frankfurt stuff. But 11 years, 370 appearances nearly. Talks about Cresswell.
Yeah, to start with that Frankfurt sort of rubbish that people go on about. Like, let's start with it. So he got sent off in the quarterfinal, which wasn't a sending off when he pulled back Dembele, and Dembele did a little wink. That wasn't a sending off. Let's start with that. And the Frankfurt red card, of course, like he did pull him down. It was a red card, but he probably, as sort of our left side of centre back, left back, there's no way he should have been the last man there in the first place. Like, I don't know how something had gone wrong for him to even be sort of charging after their striker or whatever it was. Like, so, and I mean, like, he pulled him down. If he went on to win that game and it stopped him scoring, we would have been thankful. Like,
didn't know. And also, big if that, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think to go to bang on about how he got a red card in a semi. Of course, it was disappointing at the time, and everyone was frustrated.
And the quarterfinal.
But the quarterfinal was not a red card. It wasn't a red card. So it's like, and I think to bang on when someone's given like 11 years to the club and been a really solid player, even up until the weekend, to the point where it's like, you know, if we are going to play a back three next season, is it almost worth keeping him as a squad player because he's been that impressive in the back three? Well, I'd probably say maybe it is worth keeping him for another year. He's been that good in the back three. So to then go on about, he made one mistake in semi-final, obviously a massive, massive mistake. Don't get me wrong, pulling him down, probably shouldn't have done that. But like, is that really all people are going to bang on about Cresswell when he's been so good for so long? It's just a bit typical of our fan base,
I don't think it's all they bang on about. I think you can't talk about him without mentioning that. And look, I love him to pieces, and I think actually I think he's been mustered for West Ham, and I think that is the difference between like him and I think proper legendary status, like real legend status, like up there, like left back, you know, echelons. Obviously, it was a different game then, so Julian Dix was able to play with a bit more character and all that. But as far as all-time West Ham left-backs go, I think if it's not for that, I think he sort of leaves as like, people call him a legend, and he leaves as like a brilliant player. Well done. Like, great. What a wonderful servant. Absolutely amazing. Thanks for everything. And there's just that tiny little blot on his copybook, I think. And I especially the Frankfurt one, it's sort of done the tide. You know what I mean? It just sort of, there was no coming back from it after that. And I sort of think, again, like you mentioned, where you've done a very similar thing earlier on, like to think you'd like learn your lesson a bit. And I just think that's it. I just don't think you can ignore it and pretend it didn't happen, or say that it doesn't. You know, football's about moments, isn't it? And fine margins and all that. And I think without that, I think he goes down as, you know, one of West Ham's greatest left backs of all time. If he probably still does anyway, but it's like, it's a less compelling case because people go, oh, you know, when like biggest game in our modern history at the time. He's kind of like, you know, I think we're out of that tie as a result of that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I just think he's had enough good moments. Like in the lockdown season, didn't he get like 10 assists, like enough sort of free kick goals, moments like that? I know they're obviously not the same magnitude of game, but I think once you've made, let's not forget we were already trailing to Frankfurt at the time, and it was already a tough task. It was going to be a tough task, like. So we could have easily lost that game with 11 men. Like, it wasn't completely all his fault. Like, I just think after when you've nearly hit 400 games for the club, I think obviously it's fair to mention that if people like go and sort of like paint him out to be some sort of, there's enough people I've seen online sort of paint him out to be some sort of like a villain or some sort of rubbish player, because then that's complete rubbish, because I think he's been outstanding for a number of years. And I mean, also with him, because the video keeps coming up now, he's left, like, he's one of the most emotional ones when we won a trophy in Prague, and he ran straight over to Emerson at the full-time whistle. He's got the star ahead of him, so that kind of shows what sort of guy he is for me. A top player.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just a sort of acknowledgement, really, I suppose, of what some fans' thoughts on him. What do you think about his connection with West Ham? Obviously, he's a Scouser, a Liverpool fan when he was young. I always felt like there was a little bit of, I don't know, a small bit of distance or a bit of a buffer between him and the fans. You know, with some players, you feel like they're properly immersed in it. And, you know, maybe I'm a bit of a sucker to when they sort of play up to it a bit. Like, I think Soufal and Soucek, like, comes across as genuine. I felt like with Declan Rice, particularly now he's left and you hear how he talks at Arsenal, you feel like he's sort of playing up to it a bit, and there was a bit of media training involved. And, you know, with some players, you really feel a connection to them, don't you? And I felt, you know, 11 years at the club, I don't know, I always felt there was a smidgen of a buffer between Cresswell and the fans. And I don't, did you feel that? Or I can't really put my finger on what it is, but did you sort of feel the same way?
I mean, I'm a big Cresswell fan, so I think he's brilliant. But I understand, you see enough people sort of I understand what you're saying, like, he's not quite as loved as someone who's played for the club as long as he had, if that makes sense. Like, you'd expect him to get more. Yeah. You'd expect him to get more. I mean, I think for me, like
James Collins, for example, right?
Yeah.
You know, played for the club for a long time, actually left and went and played for Villa and then came back. But like, he sort of really, there was emotion genuinely when he left, wasn't there? I love Cresswell. Cresswell just strikes me as a sort of bloke who was like, and there's nothing wrong with this at all, was more of a professional. Do you know what I mean? Who I felt like he was just a real professional at West Ham, and he liked living in London, and, you know, maybe like the lifestyle, and, you know, I don't know. I just never felt like he fell in love with West Ham, whereas James Collins, Welsh, you know, not from the area or whatever, as plenty of other players have done from all different parts of the world, have fallen in love with West Ham. I just felt Cresswell was, I never felt he just properly fell in love with the club, if that makes sense, which is odd to say after 11 years there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's just a sort of like character he is, but I think he showed enough sort of when we won the trophy for me to believe that he does, and I think he's just maybe a sort of character to keep it in, and didn't get connection with the fans because probably maybe didn't get him down to Frankfurt. He also did have like one really bad year. I can't remember what year it would have been. Maybe it was a Bilic or Pellegrini year where he was terrible. Like
yeah, right.
He also after he suffered that, like he had that horrible injury that he suffered in pre-season when he got
he was never really the same after that, was he?
Yeah, no, exactly, yeah.
And until that was when you were thinking, blimey, he's going to go on and play for England and he's going to leave West Ham. And it was almost a weird way when he got injured, you think, oh, at least we might keep him. But he was never the same. But when he arrived, I remember that first season at Upton Park, he was doing things. He was unbelievable on and off the ball. I thought he was really good. But total respect for Cresswell. Fabianski, give me a bit on him then, Alex. Like I said, 40 years old, joined for Swansea, 215 games. Again, he's exactly the sort of, I would, if you could have a Fabianski every year for the rest of our lives supporting West Ham, you'd be absolutely delighted, weren't you? I think the bloke never seemed to do less than an 8 out of 10. He made some great saves. He was always comfortable in the air. He didn't feel too dodgy with the ball at his feet. He was no sort of Edison or Allison, to be fair, but an absolute solid, reliable, like good, excellent, decent quality goalkeeper.
Yeah, he's very good goalkeeper. Like probably up there with one of the best we've had sort of in the Premier League era, probably.
Yeah.
I think he's a top quality goalkeeper to go on. I know loads of goalkeepers do go on to late 30s, 40s, but to still sort of if he played in an important game for us now, I wouldn't feel panicked or worried. I think he's a completely solid pair of hands. I think the best thing you say about him is that even though despite the sort of the Flapianski what he got at Arsenal, like when he played, I was never panicked, or I think Areola causes me to have, even though I think Areola is a good shot stopper, I think Areola makes me on the edge of my seat a bit more. I have more sort of faith in Fabianski, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Trust him a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was obviously, he gave that interview, didn't he, to Polish TV when he was dropped by David Moyes. And I think that was a very difficult decision for David Moyes to make, because Fabianski had done nothing wrong. But you had Areola, which, were paying big money, had a big reputation in the France team and all that sort of stuff, who was sitting there going, look, if I'm not number one this season, I'm going. So for the future of the team, David Moyes was like, well, I need that sort of forced my hand, because he's going to be number one at some point. Fabianski was 38 or 39 at that stage, getting on a little bit. And you think, all right, well, it might not be the best thing for this next season, but it was about 50-50. But for the 2 or 3 seasons after that, it probably will be. As it turned out, Areola regular run in the team didn't sort of make him go up to that next level that everyone thought. And then when Fabianski came in a couple of times, he kept Areola out of the team for a while, didn't he? So yeah, another thoroughly decent professional. And again, it goes with all of our best wishes. Right, Vladimir Coufal. Talk to me, Alex. My opinion, far too premature. Get the sense that there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, questions I'm asking at the moment. I get the impression there's something going on there. From my perspective, I know you think Aaron Wan-Bissaka Cafu is the best thing since sliced bread. But he's another one, Coufal, I think has been wonderful for West Ham, totally professional, got what it meant to play for West Ham, as you said, and put in decent performances, and would be a superb squad player. And I think us playing hardball with his contracts have left a bit of a bitter taste in his mouth. And perhaps he sort of feels it's time to leave. But again, just slight mismanagement I sense from the club, and I just think, why would you not have him for another season?
Yeah, if it is a bit of a sort of a bit of a sour end, and I think that's a shame because he's been like he has like a proper cult hero sort of player.
Yeah,
like
totally.
He puts his typical like put your heart on the sleeve. Where's his heart on the sleeve? Sorry, tough tackles, good going forward. The amount of crosses he puts in, the amount of assists he got in his best season for us with Cresswell on the other side.
Yeah,
I mean, at like what, 4 or 5 million, probably one of the best signings we've made in like God knows how long.
definitely.
In terms of value for money, like just all around like a brilliant character as well. Like again, going back to that Frankfurt game, the way he stayed on the pitch to applaud the away fans while they had a pitch invasion
in the middle of the pitch invasion.
Just a like a proper lovable guy. And I wish he would get a goal. I just want him to score so badly. Like, how can he leave and not score? He can't shoot, can he? He can't shoot to save his life. I just want him to get a goal. Give him a penalty. If we get a penalty against Ipswich, let him take it.
Do you think that'd be funny, wouldn't it? If we got a penalty against it, or Forest or Ipswich.
Oh, let him take it.
I think he misses though.
Yeah, he will miss that, and that'll make it worse, won't it?
But, again, I'll never forget all three of those players, but particularly Soucek, because he was so integral to those three the best seasons of my life supporting West Ham in the European games. And he was one of the first names on the team sheet all the time, and you were glad when he was. I think he come in and just performed at such an amazing level. You know, we signed Fabian Balbuena for £4 million. He had one good season, then flaked off a bit. Like we've made those sort of bargain signings in the past. As far as return on the investment goes, I think it's an absolutely wonderful move. Interested to see where he end up next. I still think he could do a job in the Premier League big time.
Linked with Fulham before, and I could see that because they like a sort of like an experienced Premier League sort of player.
Palace maybe.
So, I can. He can definitely still do a job. Like he hasn't been brilliant this season, I don't think, but he was also quite good at the weekend. But if his contract's up and there's disputes or whatever, and there's obviously his time for him to go, isn't it? Unfortunately, but he's been another cult hero, part of that, one of the best teams we've had in ages, and good guy.
Listen, Alex, I was going to do a separate section on the Nottingham Forest game, but we've been rabbiting on for an hour and 7 minutes, so I'm not going to do that. Nottingham Forest at home on Sunday, 2:15 kickoff, in the battle for 13th place. In said battle, Wolves go to Crystal Palace. That is not an easy game for them. Then they host Brentford on the last game of the season. You sort of sense they might manage to get something out of that. Everton, they're at home to Southampton on Sunday, and then they're away at Newcastle at the on the last game of the season. So you do sense that 15th may be our only hope. Forest are having a little mini sort of stutter almost, aren't they? 2-2 at home to Leicester, already relegated. Leicester, East Midlands rivals, of course, and then 1-1 at home to Crystal Palace before that, and then a 2-0 home defeat by Brentford. They haven't won since the 21st of April, which was a 2-1 win away at Tottenham. And then they lost that FA Cup semi-final to City. They're having a little bit of a blip, and their owners come running on the pitch screaming at Nuno Espirito Santo on the weekend after that result against Leicester. They are still chasing the Champions League, but it's no longer in their hands. How do you see it going?
I think Forest probably need to win the game a bit more than what we do, even if we're going to be. I think we'll be sort of up for it because we've got a win under our belt last home game. We obviously want to put on a good show, but I think if Forest need to win, I think they probably will grind out probably like a win by one goal, 1-0, 2-1. We might be able to get a draw, but I can't see us beating Forest just purely down to the fact they're going to be all out to try and get European football, Europa League football, Champions League, whatever it is. So I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a tough game. Very tough game.
Right,
I
coming
think
in.
they'll probably.
Given where we given the games I just read out, United and Tottenham have obviously got that Europa League final. Man United's last 2 league games are Chelsea away and Aston Villa at home. So those 2 are not easy games at all. And then Tottenham, I think weirdly, have also they have. They're away to Villa, and then at home to Brighton. So given all that, where are we going to finish?
We're going to finish 15th, I think. I don't think Tottenham and Man United will win out of the game in the Premier League this season.
Yeah.
I think we might beat Ipswich. I think we'll probably get them another 2, 3, maybe 4, but probably 2 or 3 more points. And we'll finish 15th.
Yeah, I quite agree. 43 points, 15. Probably a minus 16 goal difference, I reckon. Quite agree. Alex, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. And again, Alex Smith, West Ham, absolute diehard West Ham fan, and the heartbeat behind the scenes of the We Are West Ham podcast this season, deserves all of our thanks. And if you like listening to this podcast, Alex is just as important to this operation as Jonesy and I, who just come on and do the easy bit of waffling about West Ham week in, week out. It's great to have a chat with you, Alex. Listen, thanks very much for listening, everyone. As usual, you can follow us on socials. Make sure you do that at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. We Are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Go and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Just search We Are West Ham Podcast. And of course, if you fancy it and you've got a spare couple of quid every month and you like what me, James, and Alex produce over here at We Are West Ham, and you like ad-free listening to podcasts and you like getting them a day earlier than everyone else, then why don't you sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast. It doesn't cost a stack of money. And of course, you can also get involved in all of the community chats on the We Are West Ham Patreon with all of your fellow We Are West Ham listeners. If you fancy that, it's patreon.com/We Are West Ham Podcast. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We've done the double over Man United. People struggling to care, quite frankly, because it's still an absolutely terrible season, although it is quite funny that 20% of our Premier League victories this season have come against the Red Devils. Nottingham Forest next up in the Premier League, and I'm sure all of us will be cheering on Manchester United in the Europa League final. That's not for 9 days just yet, so I'll have another podcast before that with me and James can have a chat about just how much we want Manchester United to win in Bilbao. Thanks for listening, everyone. Get in touch. We haven't had time for messages this week, but do get in touch in the DMs and all our socials, and of course on Patreon, and we'll get round to some of your messages next week. Thanks for listening. Up the Hammers, West Ham are massive. We'll try and have an opposition for you later this week, and me and Jones will be back next week as usual.